Hello everyone, this is Tahira Mazumdar from IT department at Jagamar Garg Engineering College. Today I'll be talking on the topic of data compression, which comes under Unit 5 of the subject Computer Networks. The subject has code KCS 603 under the syllabus of AKTU. To start with, let me first tell you what are the topics which we'll be discussing today. The topics are, first I'll be talking about compression, what exactly compression is, the two types of compression we have lossy compression and lossless compression, and then we'll be talking more about the subcategories that comes under lossy and lossless compression. Under the subcategories we have different categories basically under lossy and lossless compressions. We will be taking up, for today's lectures, we'll be taking up lossless compression, and under lossless compression we'll be taking up three algorithms, namely the first one is run length encoding, followed by Huffman encoding, followed by LZ encoding. So I'll be talking about these three encoding techniques in today's lecture. Okay, before we start about the types and the encoding techniques, we'll first talk about the definition of data compression. What exactly data compression is? Now, data compression, if you see the technical definition, we can see it is the process of modifying, encoding or converting the bits structure of data in such a way so that the ultimate goal of reducing the space requirement is achieved. So through data compression, basically we compress the data with the goal of reducing the space requirement, and this helps in reducing the communication overheads. Under this, so to do this process, we go to the process of re-encoding, where we comparatively take fewer number of bits in comparison to the original representation. And we also call this data compression technique as source coding technique or bit rate reduction technique. And through data compression, basically, we can send data or files, which is made up of data basically, quickly over a network. Why so quickly? Because by data compression, we are reducing the size of our information that we are transmitting over the network. And thereby, we are actually optimizing the physical storage requirements of our data. So if you look at the implementation point of view, data compression has wide area of implementation in service-oriented or solution-oriented applications. And it works through we have several compression techniques and software solutions that utilizes various compression algorithms so that ultimately our goal of reducing the data size is achieved. So through data compression, basically, we look at the target. The target is what? To reduce the size of the data that we are working on. And why so? Because ultimately, if a data size that we are working on, if the data size is reduced, we will be basically having less memory requirement, less storage requirement, ultimately leading to improved performance, improved communication overheads, and so on. Now, so as I told you, it basically data compression implies sending or storing smaller number of bits. So our goal is to increase, let us say, put it like this. Let us say this is our size of our data. This is our size of our data. What we do, we apply compression techniques, and then we ultimately have reduced data size. So through compression, basically, we are reducing the size of the data that will be transmitted over the network. And this compression techniques, we can say they can be broadly classified into two types. One is lossless data compression and the other one is lossy data compression. Now, lossless and lossy data compression, if you look at the very word, we can make out, in case of lossless data transmission, when we are transmitting the data over the network and as we are compressing, when in case of lossless, the compressed data, when you are making the compressed data, there is no loss. There is no loss of information when you're going for lossless data transmission. And when you're going for lossy transmission, we are compromising with some information loss at the cost of still the meaning that is required to be conveyed is still conveyed. So based on the kind of application where we are using, the kind of application for which we're using the data compression technique, we can decide whether we'll go for lossless methods or for lossy methods. So under lossless data compression methods, normally they work on data which are in the form of text or in the form of programs. In that case, we can't afford to go for compression techniques where we are losing some information, we have to maintain the originality at the same time. So we will be going for lossless data compression techniques. And in case of lossy methods, the data on which we work or we apply our lossy algorithms are on the data types are normally image data types, video data type, or audio data types. So now under this lossless methods, we have three important algorithms. We have a number of algorithms. Out of this, three algorithms are quite important, and we can say the names of them are: one is run length coding technique, the other one is Huffman coding, followed by LZ coding technique, which is also called as Lempel's coding technique. Under lossy methods, we have techniques called JPEG, MPEG, MP3, and so on. In today's lecture, we'll be focusing on the lossless compression technique. We'll be taking up the algorithms that are involved in lossless compression technique. To start with, we'll first start the algorithm of run length encoding technique, followed by Huffman encoding technique, and then we'll take up LZ encoding technique. So we'll first start with run length encoding technique. So our focus in today's lecture are on lossless encoding technique, and under lossless we'll start with run length encoding technique. Now before we start, I just want to talk about a brief introduction about how exactly a compression system works. So if you look at it, we have, in the case of compression, this is at the sender's end. In the case of compression, and this is at the receiver's end. So we can see you have both at we can say that the compression system, basically it is made up of two parts, the compressor and the decompressor. The compressor is used at the sender's end, and the decompression or the decompressor is used at the receiver's end. The compressor, basically, what does it do? It consists of some pre-processing stage, as I told you, as it is indicated in the figure, followed by encoding stage, followed by the encoding stage, and finally we have the compressed files. And in case of decompression, we start with the compressed file, which is followed by the decoding technique, and after decoding we are doing some post-processing operations, and finally we get a decoded image. So this is a brief outline of the compression system model that works with, be it any kind of algorithm that we are using for the purpose of data compression. So as I told you, we have this algorithm. Basically, I'll start this in a repeat slide. So we will be basically talking on lossless data compression today. We'll be talking first on run length coding, followed by Huffman, then we'll be taking up LZ encoding technique. So let us, since today's lectures will be focusing on lossless compression rather than lossy compression, so we'll just start with the definition of lossless compression. In this case, in the case of lossless compression, the integrity of the data is preserved. That means we are compromising on the integrity of the data. Here, the compression and decompression techniques, the algorithms are devised in such a way that one is the inverse of the other ones, and the original data and the data that we're getting after compression or after the depression, they should convey the same meaning, and they should almost be the same. They should be the same, basically. And the redundant data that is removed in compression and we have it added during decompression. Lossless methods are normally used for situations where we cannot afford to lose any kind of data, and that example are for data which are text or for data which are programs. Under this kind of scenario, we go for lossless data compression. Now, under lossless data compression, as we said in the previous slide, we are now following lossless data compression. Under lossless data compression, we have three algorithms which we will be talking about today. The first one is run length encoding technique, followed by Huffman coding, followed by LZ coding. So today we'll start with run length encoding technique. So let us start with run length encoding technique. In case of run length encoding technique, we can say it is one of the simplest method of compression. Run length encoding technique is one of the simplest method of compression, and we can use it to compress data that are made up of any combination of symbols. So we work on data we compress those kind of data which are made up of any combination of symbols, and in this case we need not know the frequency of occurrences of symbols, and it can be very efficient for data which are represented in the form of zeros and ones. Here the general idea behind this algorithm is that we replace consecutive repeating occurrences of a symbol by one occurrence of the symbol followed by the number of occurrences. What does it mean? For example, we want to send something like this. We have a data which is made up of this combination of symbols. So instead of sending this whole symbols, what we'll do, we'll write what? We will write the symbol, the occurrence of the symbol followed by the number of occurrences. Like for A's case, A in this case is occurring 4 times and B in this case is occurring 3 times. So if you see, the meaning is same. We are not compromising on the integrity of the data. The data is still the same, but only thing, the way of interpretation has now changed at the cost of reduced data. If you see the size of the data before compress, here the size of the data, if you look at this example, the size of the data here is of how many characters? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 characters here before compression, and after compression we have 4 characters. So we have just changed our perspective of looking at things. So this is an example of run length encoding technique, and we can use the same approach even if the symbols specified, instead of having A's and B's and so on, we can also go for strings of zeros and ones, and we can apply the same concept in this case, in a similar scenario. If we look at this example, let us say we have this example. Let us say in this example, our original data, this is an original data that is to be compressed. That is to be compressed. That is to be compressed at where? At the sender's end. It is to be compressed at the sender's end. Here, if you look at it, we are using that logic. In case of run length encoding, what we do, we specify the symbol and the number of occurrences of that symbol. In this case, if you see B here, if you look at it, B is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So B is occurring 9 number of times. A is occurring 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we can see that A basically here is occurring how many times? It is occurring 16 number of times. Similarly, N, if you see, N is occurring 1 number of times. M, if you make the count, it will be 10 number of times. So this entire string of data, which is made up of 36 letters, if you look at it, we have around 36 symbols that is to be compressed, and we are apprising some compressing technique, and after the compression technique, the number of symbols that we have is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So from 36 symbols, we are reducing it to 12 symbols. And the point to be noted is that it is a kind of lossless compression technique, because we are not compromising on the integrity of the data. The meaning of the data before the compression and after the compression is still the same. We have only changed our perspective of looking at it, of how we look at it. Now this is an example. This was an example where we are taking symbols like ABC in consideration. This is an example where we are taking symbols which are in the form of zeros and ones. That means it is in the form of binary bits made up of zeros and ones. So here our way of looking at it will be how many number of zeros we have. We have, if you count it, it will be 14 number of zeros. So what we are doing, we are using in this example, for this example, let us say we are using 4 bits each for representing the number of occurrences of the number of bits, consecutive similar bits. So the first 4 bit, this is 14, this 14 indicate 14 number of zeros, followed by a 1. We need not followed by a 1. And then what we are doing is that we are not representing the number of ones which is occurring in our data. We're just focusing on the number of zeros. So whenever a number of ones come, whenever a 1 come, we'll stop our counter. We'll stop the counter. If you look at it, we are focusing on the number of zeros. A 1 comes, so stop our counter. This is 14 number of zeros, so it represent 14 here. Then stop our counter, again start your counter again when a new set of zeros come. If you look at it, it is 4. So again, represent 4 in binary form. We are going for 4 bits in this particular example. Based on your requirement, on the kind of data that you are handling, you can decide whether you'll go for 4 bit, 5 bit or any number of bits. After that, we have a 1. So we are not representing 1, rather the number of zeros that comes under 1, that is what we are representing. So if you look at it after a 1, if you look at this example, after a 1 and before the next one, there is no zeros. No zeros. So how many number of zeros? We'll say there is 0 number of zeros. We don't have zeros. So that is the reason for this. We have 0 number of zeros, and this 0 is again represented by the 4-bit pattern 0, 0, 0, 0. Now after this again, after the next one, again what we do? Again we count the number of zeros that comes after 1. In this case it is 12. So again you take the decimal, the binary equivalent of 12, which is 1100, and after doing so, we can safely conclude that if this is our original data whose size is around 18, it's here the size is around, we have around 30, 31, 32, 30, we have 14 plus 4, 18 plus 12, 30, 31, 32, 33. We have 33 bits. The original data is having 33 bits. Now, after applying our run length encoding counting approach, we are left with this compressed data, which size is 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 number of 4 bits, that is 4 into 4, that is 16 bits. So we are reducing from 33 bit size to 16 bit size, and this approach is again not compromising on the integrity of the data or the lossing of the data, but we are just changing our way of representation of the data. And this approach is more frequently or more popular when we have similar sequences of symbols occurring consecutively. In that case, this algorithm is a good one. Now let us go to the second algorithm. The second algorithm, if this is again an example of lossless encoding technique. So in second encoding technique, which you're calling as Huffman encoding, what it does is that this approach assigns shorter codes to whom? To those symbols that occur more frequently. The symbols which are occurring more frequently will be having shorter mapping codes, and symbols which are occurring less frequently will be having longer codes. So that is the main punchline when you're talking about Huffman coding. For example, let us imagine that we have a text file where we are working on 5 characters, let us say A, B, C, D, and E. And before we can assign the bit pattern to each character, what we are doing is that we assign each character a weight. To each character that we are working on, before we are going for assigning their the bit patterns, what we do is that we're assigning each character. What we're doing, we're assigning a weight. And on what basis are we assigning the weight? We're assigning the weight on the basis of the frequency of usage of that particular character. That means a character, let us say A, if it is occurring 5 number of times, then its weight should be 5. So the weight is on the basis of the number of times that particular character will be used. So in this example, so we are considering an example where our string of data is made up of this 5 characters, A, B, C, D, and E. And in this example, let us assume that the weight for each of the characters A, B, C, D, and E is 17, 12, 12, 27, and 32. This represents the frequency or the number of times this letter A has been used in our symbol. Let us say A is used for 17 times, B is used for 12 times, and so on. Now, how does this algorithm work? Huffman encoding. So to start with, what we'll do is that, let us say we are just the frequency table which we are having here, A, B, C, D, E. The frequency occurrences is 17, 12, 12, 27, 32. That is what we are modeling here. And from this as base, we'll start with the algorithm now. Now the algorithm is, what we do to start with, we take up those two nodes which has the least number of weights. Here the nodes corresponding to the character B and the nodes corresponding to the character C has the least number of weight. So we take up those two nodes and we combine them, and we have a combined weight by which we get it by the summation of both the weights of those two nodes. So when you're adding 12 and 12, we're getting 24. So this is our step number 1. So we take the least two nodes, the least least weighted nodes. We take up those two, we sum up their weights, and we get a new particular frequency table again. Now after we repeat the process again. So now after step 2, what we say, the weights we have are 17, 24, 27 and 32. So among this 4 set of weights, again we zero down on the 2 least weight. In this example, the 2 least weight is, we have 17 and 24. So again we repeat the same process. We add up the summation of those 2 nodes, the summation of the weights of those 2 particular nodes. So we have 17 being summed up to that of 24, and so 17 and 24, if you are adding up, we are getting 41. So after this step, the weights which we have right now is 41, 27 and 32. So this is after step 2. Now we repeat this process again, and again when you're repeating, what we'll do again, we'll zero down on 2 nodes which has got the 2 least weights among the set of all nodes that are available in the table. So if you look at it, we have weight 27 and 32 that are least. So we take up those 2 nodes corresponding to 27 and 32, and we add up their weights. So we have 57. 27 plus 32 is basically, 59, not 57. So we are having 59. Here 41, how did we get? We get 41 basically by adding up 17 and 24. So this is our step 3. Now after the completion of step 3, we have 2 weights with us. One is 41 and the other one is 59. So we have 41 and 59. So since we are left with only 2 nodes with 2 weights, and so obviously we will presume this 2 as a least weight, and we complete a process of finding the summation of the weights for those 2 nodes. So we add up, this was for 41, if you remember, this was for 59. We add up those 2 weights, we have a 100 counter here. And finally, our tree, once we have taken care of all the sets of characters that are there in a frequency table, and we have come up in, once the entire process is completed, then we come up with a tree kind of structure with a root node followed by a number of paths. Now, what we do after this tree is obtained, what next we do is that we basically start numbering the edges of the tree. Based on an assumption, we are assuming that the left edge coming out from every node, we're numbering that as 0, and the right edge coming out of every node, we're numbering that as 1, and we follow this process for all the edges that are there in the tree. In that case, we ultimately have a structure something like this. Since it is left, we have 0. Since it is right, we have 1. Now again come to the left subtree. This is left, so we have a 0. This is again right, we have a 1. This node doesn't have any left subtree, so we're not bothering on that. Now come here, this is your left subtree, so we are numbering with 0. This is the right subtree, so the right edge is numbered with 1. Similarly for the other right subtree, if you look at this particular pattern, again the left subtree, the edge corresponding to the left subtree, since it is the left part, so we are numbering it with 0, and since it is the right part, we are numbering it as at 1. So after we are done with numbering of the edges of the tree, which we have found out in the previous slide, once we are done with this, next what we do is we will be giving the corresponding representation of the symbols that we have in our character. So if you look at the table, the initial table, if you look at it, the one which has the maximum number of occurrence is E, if you look at this figure, and the symbol which has the least number of occurrence is B and C. Now as per our logic, which Huffman code says, the logic is that if we will be assigning shorter codes for that which occurs more frequently. Here E is occurring more frequently, so we will be assigning less number of codes, and B and C are occurring less frequently, so in that case we need to assign more number of codes, and this algorithm automatically takes care of that. How does it take care of that? Let us see the example. So for example, if you look at the representation A, for A you start from the root node and trace the path that is needed to reach the leaf node A, and as you're tracing the path, take note of the bit value that we are coming across in the edges. So as we start from the root and go till the leaf node A, so the bits value that we are getting is 0, 0. So for A, the mapping is A will be represented by 00. Let us take a B. Again, what we do, we follow the same process. We start from the root node and follow the path that needs to be traversed for you to reach the leaf node, and the path is 0, 1, 0. So you can see B is 0, 1, 0. Let us do the same thing for C. For C, again, it is 0, 1, 1. C, it is 0, 1, 1. And we can check it out for the other nodes. For D, it is 1, 0. And for E, it is 1, 1. So if you look at it, if you remember, the letter which was occurring the most, just having the maximum number of recurrence, was E, and least was B and C. And if you see, E was having, we are using less number of bits. Those which occurs more frequently will be using less number of, as specified here, we will be using shorter codes. You can see E is shorter one because you're using only 2 bits. And why shorter? Because E is occurring for more number of times. And if you see, B and C comparatively are having the least number of occurrences. And if you see, by default, automatically, as we are running our algorithm, B and C are having comparatively more number of letters in their codes. So the Huffman coding through this approach basically takes care of how to handle the cases of unequal occurrences of letters, and accordingly we go for applying algorithms in such a way that we are going for reduced size of a representation. Okay, so let us now, this is how the Huffman, in continuation, if you just look at the example. So as we're applying the Huffman coding, this is, if you look at the phase, let us say this is a text that we want to encode using Huffman encoding. So whenever E is coming, we are replacing E by 000. E is replaced, sorry, 11. Every E is replaced by 11, followed by A is 00, so we have 00. B is 010, so it is 010. So every text that we have in the data that we are trying to compress, we will be making a replacement in such a way that most frequently letter occurring symbols will be represented by lesser codes and vice versa. Thereby we are going for, this is leading to data compression ultimately. The next, and the decoding will be following in the reverse direction. Now let us go to the third algorithm. The third algorithm is LZ encoding technique, which we also call it as Lampel-Ziz encoding technique. It is basically an example of a category of algorithms which we call it as dictionary-based algorithm and encoding technique. In this case, the idea here is to create a dictionary, basically, which is a table, and it is the dictionary that we are creating is a dictionary of strings that we are using for during the communication session. Here, if both the sender and the receiver, they have a copy of the dictionary, if both the sender and the receiver have a copy of the dictionary, then what happens, the previously encountered strings, they can be substituted by the index that is there in the dictionary. So if you already are having a dictionary where you're maintaining an index related to every symbols, so as we're encoding, what we do, we check up with the dictionary. If the letter is already there in the dictionary, we replace the symbol with the index that is related to that particular symbol that is there in the dictionary. So here, so right now, as I said, we are working on the LZ technique. So here what we are doing, in this case, we say we are having two concurrent events. What are those two events? One is building an indexed dictionary and at the same time compressing a string of symbols. And here, the algorithm basically extracts the smallest substring that cannot be found in a dictionary from the remaining uncompressed string. So this is the main crux of the problem here, the way we are sorting the problem. We basically focus on the smallest substring, which is not there in the dictionary currently. We focus on that string which is not there in the dictionary. We take it out, extract it, and then we add it to the dictionary in the in the remaining steps. And what is that? As we add it to the dictionary, what we do, we store a copy of the substring in the dictionary as a new entry is then taken care of, and we assign a new index to it. And in case of compression, here compression occurs when the substring, except for the last character, is during compression. What we do, whatever substrings we're getting, we're replacing it with the index that is found in the dictionary. And let me take an example. Once we take an example, I think the concept will be more clearer. If you take an example, let us say this is an uncompressed data that we're working on. We want to compress this. And what we do, we'll be making a dictionary as we scan the letters one by one. And as we're scanning the letters one by one, we are making dictionary. As we are making the dictionary, we are assigning some index to those letters. And later on, our focus will be on the index of those letters as we are doing the compression technique. So let us start with the first letter that we are compressing is B. So if you look at this example, B, and this is the data. This is the first letter that is to be compressed. Now, that we are trying to not only compress, we are also using this first letter to build up a dictionary. If you look at it, B till now, we have not used any, assigned any index value to the dictionary. So we take up B and we are assigning an index value 1 to it. Now, B is taken care of. So once B is taken care of, we are having the remaining part. This is the remaining part of the data. Now from here, the next data that is taken care of is A. Now A, if you look at it, A till now, we have not handled A string till now. So we are taking up A and forming a new dictionary, and to A we are giving the index 2. Once A is taken care of, we are left with what? We are left with A, B, A, B. We are left with this. After this, so this is the set of strings that we are left with. After this, now when you look at it, if you just look at A, if you see, A is already taken care of, which is indexed with keyword 2. B is already taken care of, which is indexed with keyword 1. But A, B as such in totality is not taken care of. So what we do, we take up A, B, and we parse them, and we are assigning a key value 3 to the string AB. And we repeat this process. So after AB is taken care of, our next string, the next remaining data that we have is A, triple B, double A, and so on. So we are having A, triple B, double A, and so on. Now if you take up, now we know, if you look at this, A is already indexed. If you take B, B is already indexed. If you take up AB, AB is already indexed. So next is A, double B. This is a new string pattern. A double B. So we take up A double B, we parse it, and we index it by 4. After we have taken up A double B, next we are left with B double A, and so on. So as we are taking up B double A, as we start with B, if you see, B is already indexed, so we are not taking care of B right now. A is already indexed, fine. So but BA, if you look at it, BA by itself is not indexed. So what we do, we take up BA and give it a new index, that is 5. So BA is taken care of. So now we have A, double B followed by double A. Now again we repeat the same process. If you look at simply at A is indexed. A is indexed by letter 2. If you look at B, B is also indexed by letter 1. If you look at it as A double B is also indexed by 4th keyword. A triple B is not indexed, so we take up A triple B and we index it by keyword 6. So A triple B is indexed. Now we are left with B double A. As we are left with B double A, again the same process. B is already indexed. You can see BA is already indexed, but B double A is not indexed. So we take up B double A and we index it by the keyword 7. Now after this indexing, you can see this is the compressed data that we have. For example, this is the compressed case for this situation. So if you look at it, this is our uncompressed data, and after this, applying this algorithm, if you see, this is our data where the number of symbols, if you compare it after compression, if you compare the size, here we have more number of characters if you compare to the data string that we are having after compression. So this is a technique where what we are doing, we are applying indices to the letters and the symbols that we are scanning, and at the same time we are compressing them. So when it comes to decompression in this particular approach, we're just following the reverse direction. We start with the uncompressed symbol and then we follow the reverse kind of steps to come up with the original data. So that much for now. We have talked about the 3 kinds of algorithms that comes under lossless compression: null length coding, Huffman coding, and LZ encoding technique. And later on in subsequent classes, I'll be talking about the remaining topic which comes under lossy compression technique. So that much for now. Thank you all of you.